Just take a breath. And just closing down the eyes for a moment. Just taking in all of what we've been sharing here. Maybe you want to place a hand on your heart, a hand on your belly, your genitals, just connecting into this body temple. And as you breathe into your body, can you first and foremost recognize that this body that you're moving through this human experience is quite a remarkable gift. The breath that comes in every day, the food that you eat, this experience of the senses, smell, taste, felt, sense, touching the body, moving through the world, all these places of our sensory awareness with the outside world, and taking that into your awareness, taking that into your body, taking that into a space where you can cultivate and know your own relationship with the divine. You can know your own relationship with ritual, where you can know your own relationship, you could say, between Shiva, which is the pure state of awareness existing inside of everything in our world, and Shakti, the moving, flowing expanse of energy through patterns, through shapes, through aliveness. And this Shiva Shakti dance, we call it yin yang, masculine, feminine, is happening inside of you. It's happening between your bones that create the structure for your body, that let the water and the blood move through you. So we're looking at this dance between flow and structure. And this, in many ways, is what our world is united around. So this unification of polarity where if we look at the pure singular essence, the dark abyss of our creation, with the everythingness of Shakti meeting the nothingness of Shiva, then these dance together as one, creating life. When we transcend that, then we can begin to open up into the non-dual. We do this through practice, through ritual, through experience. We do that through the initiation of yourself with a teacher, of you as a teacher, of really leading life from the eyes of curiosity, of discovering what it means to weave love through all of existence. So when we look at Tantra, we look at this relationship with self, with others, weaving itself through love. And in ancient scripture, you can look at the Vidyan Bhavra Tantra, which is a conversation between Shiva and Shakti, Parvati in the case, making manifest form of Shakti, asking Shiva, discovering all of these different places inside. What is life, my Lord? What is creation? What is this dance that's happening before us? And this is what each and every one of you get to discover through breath, through movement, through getting to know this body temple in relationship to yourself, in relationship to others. And so this field of Tantra, ecstatic Tantra, is the ecstatic journey of aliveness that lives and breathes through every cell of your body, that lives and breathes inside of every form every smile, every conversation with a grocery clerk, every conversation with somebody who comes into your world, knowing that weaving of love, of polarity that happens inside of you, happening inside of another. And your capacity to expand in that frequency of love will support others along the way who are seeking out the discovery of what Tantra is into their life, not as a dogmatic principle, maybe as something they read in scripture, absolutely, but how do we live that level of embodied awakening into our day-to-day world where we're not just talking about concepts, we're living and breathing them, because that's the reality that we want to see. As Gandhi said, be the change we wish to see on this planet, be the change we wish to manifest. So we open the doors of Tantra when we let love weave itself through our life. Taking a breath in.
Beautiful. Thank you. That was really beautifully spoken. So Tantra means a weaving. It also means a weaving of each one of us, our inner feminine and our inner masculine. It's a weaving between two people of masculine and feminine, which can be any gender. So every gender has masculine and feminine. So if there are two women coming together, it's a meeting in their polarities. Two men coming together, or genderless, people who are trans or who claim both genders. And so it's understanding that because we are all feminine on our left side and masculine on our right side, regardless of the biological gender we're born in, we contain both, and we learn to weave both. And there's a healing that takes place when I bring in the strength of my inner masculine, so that I don't necessarily need to bring in a man into my life to feel whole. Tantra is a connection between sex, heart, and spirit. Tantra says we don't have physical sex for sport because that is useless to us. We have sex that permeates through our entire being, where our heart expands and our spirit connects to divine source. And when two people or more hearts are opening up between each other like a lotus blossom, then we are actually moving through each other's hearts to connect directly to divine source. So if I have this vertical connection, connected to the earth and connected to the sky, to source, and a partner I come in engagement with also has this vertical connection, then what happens between us is sheer magic, because the hearts are connecting to source, the feet are connecting to the earth, and every one of our chakras are connected. So we have 7 energy centers or chakras in our bodies, and we have one above our heads and one below our feet. We have them in our hands, but I'm going to count the basic 9. So if I get together with a partner, we have 81 chakra connections, which means that every one of my energy centers is connected to all of his energy centers, and that's why it's 81 connections. It expands the possibilities of everything, because we recognize that we are not physical beings living in a 3D reality where we use our head to make sense of the world, and we live in this head culture, but we are embodied. We are aware that the rest of our body is as important as our head. We're aware that our heart actually has more neural connections going to our brain than our brain has to our heart. So we learn to expand our heart and begin to listen to its intelligence even more. We learn that our clear sentience, our ability to feel beyond our 5 senses, and much of our empathic awareness comes from our sacral chakra. And so we learn to heal and release anything that's in the way of us being able to have clear sensing. Yeah? We understand that when all of our energy centers are in harmony and flowing in each one in wholeness, and then all together in harmony, that what we're doing is we're having this expansion into the highest level of possibility for ourselves. We are growing into the human beings that we were meant to become, which means Tantra is also a spiritual path. So in my worldview, Tantra is a sexual spiritual path and a spiritual path and a heart path. We are also recognizing that our lower chakras are no less sacred than our upper chakras. So many spiritual paths want to bring people up out of where the gunk is, where the shame and the guilt live, and move us up into our heart. And so we meditate and we chant and we do all these things to bring ourselves up into here. And yet there's all this stuff happening down here that can make it so that when your partner does something you don't like, you yell at them really loud because you've got all this pain down here at the base of your body that you haven't dealt with. So it's like, yes, I operate in the world as a spiritual being, but when I go home, I don't treat my family that well. So we're learning, or treat myself that well. So we're learning to heal whatever is in the way, and actually recognizes the sacredness of the root chakra, the anus and the perineum and the legs, which bring energy up from the earth and give us our safety. And we recognize the sacredness of our sexuality and understanding that our genitals hold our sexuality and sensuality, our creativity, and our emotional well-being. So this is a very valuable sacred center, and when we heal that, we become more whole. So Tantra is not a religion, and yet it is, on many levels, a spiritual path of personal transformation. And it doesn't matter what religion people come in with. We could have someone who is Jewish, someone who is Catholic. It doesn't matter, because what's happening is we're recognizing that source, or God, goddess, universe, existence, is a source of love. And that through any religion, you can tap into the essence of the source of it, which is love, and which is connection to the understanding, a little different than these religions, and that is the understanding that God, goddess lives within all of us. That we are actually an aspect or a spark of God. And so instead of praying to an outer God, we recognize that inside ourselves, we have the capacity to come into divine love and divine wisdom, and to support that in the world around us as well as within ourselves.
And let's take a breath. Last piece I want to share on this, and why, in my perspective, it's so important for individuals as yourself to embody what it means to be a Tantra practitioner in the world, is that in my look at the world right now, we need this more than ever. We're entering into a world that's taking away human touch. It's taking away our capacity to look eye to eye, soul to soul with another, and to remember the gift of being a human. And of course, we can transcend out of the human experience, and we can enter the non-dual places, which a lot of actually deep tantric scripture is inviting us into. However, if we are transcending the human experience without mastering it first, then we're not actually transcending it with grace. We're transcending it because the human experience is so challenging for so many that they don't know how to be in the body. So what each one of you is actually inviting people to do is to learn how to come home back into the safety of their own body. That probably for many people, the reason they're reaching out to you is because some traumatic situation happened. Something happened in their life where they've felt like it's not safe to be in the body. So they find a spiritual tradition that actually takes them farther out of the body. It takes them farther to finding a God that is beautiful to experience. But when we know God from within this body, when we have embodied awakening, and we live with that level of awareness, then we invite that same permission field for everyone else around us to do the same. So it is a tradition that's taking from ancient scriptures, taking simple practices, rituals, day-to-day awareness into community, into connection with ourselves and others, that's supporting people to actually come home back into the love that we know inside, and not a, mushy-gushy pie in the sky love, but a love where we can actually know ourselves as love and then be able to see that inside of everything. And see that inside of the people that we may put down into a pit, the people that we might shame and blame and project all of our shit upon. And can we look upon them and recognize that the God is shining through them as well? And our capacity to expand in that compassion, in that level of empathetic appreciation for life, then creates a sword of truth inside of you to know what you stand for. And to not just say, oh yeah, everything is good and bad. Yes, there is a field that we can go to the non-dual beyond good and bad, but the only way that we can do that is to have appreciation for both. An appreciation from both that leads from, that discovers from inside of you, where you know the trajectory of where your soul is guiding. So you can actually support this field with deeper levels of integrity that sometimes people get lost in. They get lost in the sexuality. They get lost in all of that. So it's not that we deny eros in the name of something higher and more spiritual, which a lot of spiritual traditions have done. They've denied the erotic body because so much stuff exists around it. So it's almost been easier to deny it rather than deal with the stuff that's inside of it. So when you can own yourself as an erotic, alive, dark, light, sexual being that takes people and takes yourself to the dimensions that they've never actually known, but they've been longing to get to. That's the thing I see, and I know you've seen over and over, is that when you meet somebody in this space and you support them and guide them into coming back home into their body, they start to access their intuition. They start to access the natural places inside of them that I know every one of you has began to open up into this week. And that's the place that we can actually lead from in this life. And that, to me, is why it's so important to have this work spread, is so that you, along with everyone else that you meet, starts to access the unique wisdom that your soul has come into this life to share.
In addition to that, when you find your truth inside of you, you can tell the lies. You can feel the lies in your body. You can, when you hear the lies, you don't buy it. You know what truth is. If somebody says something and it resonates deep inside of your body, that's truth. When somebody says something and your body goes, ugh, that's not truth. That's lies that we're being told. And so what it also does is it supports us in rising beyond believing all of the media and everything they're trying to sell us, and going into, is this true for me? Is this true for me? Within here, where you don't even need an expert to tell you whether something is true, where you don't even really need, and I'm very pro-science, but I don't really need to have scientific evidence if something is true, if my entire being is resonating truth with that, or that something is not true. And that's empowering. It's incredibly empowering, and it changes the landscape of the entire planet.
So, you have your mission.
Should you choose to accept?
Should you choose to accept?
I want to say one more piece that's bubbling in, and that is when I first studied Tantra, this was my mission, and it still is. And that is to bring more love into the world. One or more people at a time, whether I'm working one-on-one or whether I'm working with a group, because the world is having disconnected sex. The world is having disconnected relationships. If you go into any restaurant, you will notice that many people are sitting at a table and they each have their phone. And you'll also notice that the way that people engage with each other, how many couples do you know that sit really far apart? Or they are nagging each other, or they are, or children yelling at their parents all the time. And so, can we teach love? Can we teach sex happens with the heart open? That doesn't mean you have to be in a committed relationship. So I can meet someone and my heart is open and their heart is open, and we can choose to engage in a sexual relationship, and it is still a sex, heart, spirit experience, as opposed to sex for sport, where you might meet someone and you lust after them and you find them really attractive and you engage only from your physical body, and it's like you are two robots connecting. That's the way most of the world is having sex. And so when we teach people how to have sex, heart, and spirit alignment, then the world creates more love. And the children that are created in that kind of union are completely different beings than the children that are created in a union where the parents only knew how to fuck from their physical body, from their genitals. God, Goddess did not mean for us to have sexual experiences that are friction-based and that explode from the pelvis, because that is actually detrimental to our expansion into who we are becoming as a biological imperative that is so far beyond growing and aging. Yeah. And so we actually become more vital and more alive as we get older instead of less.